Alright, let's continue with multiplying rational expressions. Let's look at example 3. We have x cubed minus 1, which is the difference of cubes, so we're going to have to factor that. 3x minus 3 has a GCF. 15x squared, there's nothing we can do with that. And then x squared plus x plus 1 might be able to be factored. So let's set up our template. X cubed minus 1 is a difference of cubes. So we're going to do our zigzag technique here. This is x times x times x. This is 1 times 1 times 1. So we have x and 1. This will be x squared, x and 1. So 1 squared is still 1. So that's going to factor into same, opposite, add. So we're going to have x minus 1 times x squared plus x plus 1. On the bottom we have 3x minus 3, so I'm going to take out a 3. That leaves me x minus 1. On the top of the second one I just have 15x squared, so I'll just leave it there. And then x squared plus x plus 1 does not factor, but that's okay. So I'm just going to leave that there. And you can make a note, does not factor. You can try, but it does not factor. So then we hunt down what matches. We have x minus 1 on top, x minus 1 on the bottom. We can divide those out. X squared plus x plus 1, x squared plus x plus 1. This trinomial and that trinomial are exactly the same. So that leaves us with 15x squared over 3. That's it. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So my final answer would just be 5x squared. You can put it over 1, but if it's a numerator, you can just leave it 5x squared. Alright, same idea with example 4. If you want to pause the video and give it a try, it has a similar setup. And then you can follow along with me to see if you got it correct. So again, I like to have my template ready to go so I can have a place to write everything. We have x cubed minus 8, which is a difference of cubes. We'll have to factor that. Negative 6x plus 12, we'll have to take out a GCF. 6x squared can just stay 6x squared. And then x squared plus 2x plus 4, we'll have to see if we can get that factored. So we have x cubed minus 8. That's x times x times x. 2 times 2 times 2. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. So x and 2. Then it'll be x squared, 2x, and 4. So we'll have our binomial and our trinomial. Same, opposite, add. So that factors into x minus 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 4. On the denominator, I'm going to take out a negative 6, and that also leaves x minus 2. We taught that the leading coefficient is negative. Go ahead and take a negative out, and that will change the sign of the subsequent terms. And that's just a general rule to follow. If the leading coefficient's negative, go ahead and take out the negative. We have just plain old 6x squared on top. And x squared plus 2x plus 4, again, you can try to factor it, but it's not going to factor. And if you notice, it matches the trinomial from the difference of cubes. So there's really no need to get frustrated with that. It just doesn't factor. So from here, we're going to cross things out. We have x minus 2 and x minus 2. X squared plus 2x plus 4. X squared plus 2x plus 4. That leaves us with 6x squared over negative 6. The 6's divide off, but the negative's still there for our final answer of negative x squared. So sometimes you're just left with a numerator or a denominator. Sometimes you're left with multiple things on top and bottom. So that is multiplying. Again, the tricky part is the factoring. After you get it all nice and factored, it's a very nice, clean process. But you've got to take the time to get everything factored out, and showing all your work on scratch paper is the best way to keep that nice and organized. So let's move on to dividing rational expressions. Very similar to multiplication. So dividing, to divide rational expressions, I'm going to label this dividing rational expressions. It's good to label your scratch paper. I have students that come into my office with just handfuls of paper all over the place. You really want to label what you're working on so you can find it later. So to divide rational expressions, there's only one extra step, and that is to flip the second fraction, always the second fraction, and change division to multiplication. And if you remember when you learned how to divide fractions, you did the same thing. You flipped the second fraction and changed to multiplication. And there's a rhyme that goes with that. I can't remember what it is now, but it's always the second fraction that you flip and then change the whole problem to multiplication. From there, we're going to follow all the steps for multiplication. So it's really not much different. I have a few examples here. Some of them get a little intense, but it'll give you the same idea as multiplication. So as soon as you notice that division sign, you don't want to start taking things apart yet. Before you do anything, you want to have 8m squared, or 3m squared minus 12, leave that the same. Change the division to multiplication and flip the second fraction. I have so many students that jump right into it and they forget to flip, and they've done all this hard work and get it wrong only because they forgot to flip. So I always say flip first, because trying to remember to do it later after you've done all that work, it just doesn't happen very often. Now that we've flipped, I'm going to set up my template. 8m squared will stay 8m squared. 3m squared minus 12, I'm going to take out a 3. That will leave m squared minus 4. 2 minus m can stay. You can actually switch that to negative m plus 2 if it makes it easier for you. Again, I like to have the variable first. And then 40 will just stay 40. From here, m squared minus 4 is a difference of squares. So I'm going to have 8. Let me put it over here. So I'm going to bring this down over here so I can have more space. I have 8m squared over 3. This is going to be m minus 2 and m plus 2. And then times, I'm going to write it with a variable first. Negative m plus 2 over 40. Doesn't look like we're making much progress here. But I'm going to use the trick I talked about when we were simplifying to take out that negative 1 and change it to m minus 2. That'll make things a little bit easier. Once I do that, once I change this binomial to this binomial, the m minus 2's will divide out. You can also cross simplify the 8 and the 40 if you want to, or you can do that later. I like to do it up front because then the numbers are easier to work with. 8 and 40, the 40 can become a 5, and the 8 can become a 1. That just takes knowing your multiples to see that pretty quickly. So let's see what we have left. And you can see these can get a little messy, so different colors, plenty of space. Take your time, don't rush through it. Really observe what you're seeing, make sure your handwriting is nice and neat so you can follow it. So I have a 1m squared and a negative 1 at the top. So that leaves me with negative m squared on top. I have a 3 and a 5 and an m plus 2. So I'm going to multiply the 3 and the 5 and then m plus 2. And sometimes you'll still see something that you can do, and sometimes that's just all there is to it. So that is my final answer. And don't multiply anything back together, because it will just undo all that work you just did. So that one was pretty tough to follow. If you'd like to try the second one on your own, you're more than welcome to. Or if you're not quite there yet, you can follow along with me. As soon as I see that division, I'm going to flip. So 6y to the third over 3y squared minus 27. I'm going to change it to multiplication, and I'm going to immediately flip this over. From there, I'll set up my template. The 6y to the third just stays. 3y squared minus 27, I can take out a 3. That leaves me with y squared minus 9. I'm going to switch the order of these again to make it negative y plus 3. I didn't change anything, I just switched the order over 42. From here, let's see, I'm going to rewrite it down here. We've got a difference of squares again. Those get a little sneaky. So y squared minus 9 is a difference of squares. So I'm going to rewrite it again into y plus 3 and y minus 3 times, I'm going to take out that negative 1 and make it y minus 3 over 42. Taking out that negative 1 happens every so often. Just look for it. Anytime your variable is negative, the coefficient on the variable is negative, generally take it out. See what happens. So we have y minus 3 on top, y minus 3 on the bottom. The 6 and the 42 can reduce. This can become a 1. This will become a 7. Again, just knowing your multiples. Then let's see what we have left. We have a 1 and a negative 1 and a y cubed. So negative y cubed. We have a 3 and a 7, which is 21, and then a y plus 3. So your answers are always going to look a little different, and it's really hard to check these problems, which is unfortunate. You just have to trust your math, double check your factoring, and just make sure every step you're doing is mathematically correct, and take your time. Alright, so example 3 and 4 are massive, massive problems. I encourage you to, again, pause the video, try them on your own first, so you can really follow along. These are as bad as it gets for simplifying, multiplying, and dividing. Notice there's a trinomial on top, trinomial on the bottom, trinomial, trinomial, lots and lots and lots of factoring. So you're going to really depend on that scratch paper to get you through all that factoring. Before we start, as soon as we see division, we're going to flip. So I'm going to leave the first expression the same. Over 24y squared minus 10y plus 1. Watch when you're transcribing, watch your signs. Students generally transcribe and screw something up. So just be very careful, double check your transcribing before you get into all the work. Now we're going to flip this, so the 8y squared plus 18y minus 5 will be on top, and the 3y squared plus 17y plus 10 will be on the bottom. So let's get this monster factored. You're going to need 4 separate spaces, one for each trinomial, and when you're done, you're going to have a factored set and another factored set. So give yourself that empty space. But don't try to do your factoring all in the same space, it gets too messy. So let's start with 18y squared plus 9y minus 2. I don't see a GCF, so we'll have A, B, and C. You might want to have your calculator handy because these numbers can get pretty big. 18 times negative 2 is negative 36. B is 9. So that would be positive 12 and negative 3. So 18y squared plus 12y minus 3y minus 2. Then we'll do our GCFs by grouping. Oops, not 4. 2. And the second one, I'm going to take a negative 1. If you're getting lost on the factoring part, go back to chapter 9. Make sure you've got your factoring down. So this should factor into 6y minus 1 times 3y plus 2. Let's do the bottom of the first one, 24y squared minus 10y plus 1. Let's do our AC method, or whatever technique you prefer is fine. It's 24, negative 10. That would be negative 6 and negative 4. So we have 24y squared minus 6y minus 4y plus 1. Then we'll do our grouping. Take out a 6y. That gives 4y minus 1. I'm going to take out a negative 1. That's going to change those signs. So the bottom of the first one factors into 6y minus 1 over 4y minus 1. And then let's keep going. Again, it's a lot of space we're using here to factor all these pieces. I'll fold this in half so you can see it. So we have, where are we? 8y squared plus 18y minus 5. No GCF, just really big numbers to work with. So that's negative 40 and 18. It'll be positive 20 and negative 2. So 8y squared plus 20y minus 2y minus 5. GCF would be 4y for the first pair. And take out a negative 1 for the second pair. So that factors into 4y minus 1 times 2y plus 5. And I know this is exhausting, it's just a whole bunch of factoring. Let's do it one more time. 8y squared plus 18y minus 5. No GCF, so A, B, C. Oops, I just did the same one. Sorry about that. I was looking at the original problem instead of the flipped. Here we go. 3y squared plus 17y plus 10. So we have 30 and 17, which would be 15 and 2. So 3y squared plus 15y plus 2y plus 10. So that's 3y times y plus 5 plus 2 times y plus 5. Okay, so that factors into 3y plus 2 times y plus 5. Whew, that's the hard part, getting all those things factored. Now we get to cross stuff out. This is the fun part. 6y minus 1's divide off, 4y minus 1's divide off, 3y plus 2 divide off, and all you're left with is 2y plus 5 over y plus 5. And I recommend parentheses there. And there's your final answer. Alright, example 4 is the same idea, a whole bunch of factoring. I recommend pausing the video, trying it on your own, and then playing the video back to see how you did. But let's get started with example 4. Label your scratch paper so you can go back and see it. We're dividing, so before I do anything, I'm going to flip. Change it to multiplication and flip. You don't want to do all that work and forget to flip. I know how frustrating that is. Alright, so we have 10x squared plus 23x minus 5. Let's get that factored. That would be negative 50 and positive 23, which would be 25 and negative 2. So we have 10x squared plus 25x minus 2x minus 5. Do our grouping, that would be 5x. I'm going to take out a negative 1 from the second pair. So I need my space for my results. It's going to be 5x minus 1 times 2x plus 5. The bottom of the first one We have 5x squared minus 51x plus 10. So we'll set up our chart. That would be positive 50 and negative 51. Just negative 50 and negative 1. So that's 5x squared minus 50x minus x plus 10. We'll do our grouping. It's 5x times x minus 10 minus 1 times x minus 10. So where are we? That's the bottom of this first one. 5x minus 1 times x minus 10. And this is very mentally exhausting. I'm exhausted too, no matter how many times I teach this. It is tiring, so take breaks. Don't try to get all the homework done at once, because this is very draining on your brain energy. Your factoring just kind of sucks the life out of you sometimes. So if you're feeling exhausted, I totally understand. That's why we didn't do that many examples of this. Alright, let's get the top of the second one factored, get this problem finished. So we have negative 140 and negative 68. That would be negative 70 and positive 2. So 7x squared minus 70x plus 2x minus 20. Do our grouping. Oop, that should be a 10. And 10. So that's the top of the second one after flipping. 7x plus 2 times x minus 10. And finally the bottom of the flipped. That's going to be 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. Two times 10 is 20, b is 9. So 4 and 5. 2x squared plus 4x plus 5x plus 10. Do our grouping. 2x times x plus 2. This should be very methodical for you. You shouldn't get hung up on anything. You should be able to roll through all these steps without any hesitation. Maybe not as fast as I'm going, but at least being able to get it correctly. So the bottom of the second one factors into 2x plus 5 times x plus 2. Hard part's over. We have all that stuff factored. So then we can start dividing off. Anything that matches. And sometimes it all cancels out and we just hit 1. For this one, we're left with 7x plus 2 on top over x plus 2 on the bottom, and we'll leave our answer just like that. Alright, I'm going to stop there. Go ahead and take a break. If you're watching all these videos in a row, take a break after this one, and we'll finish this section in a separate video.